I will start. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for coming again into the Palmerston Road Job Club. And today, we've been, let me share my screen we've been following, I hope you can see my screen, Steps to Employment, this workbook, what we've been following, and we've been looking at series of topics about like finding your motivation, overcoming obstacles, discovering your strengths, getting to know employers, writing CV applications 1 and 2, and succeeding in interviews. And now we are still at that point of succeeding in interviews, in which we look at various kind of interview questions that we need to be prepared to be able to answer. And so today we're going to take one of them. Like I told you earlier, some of these interviews questions are up to 15 various kind of interviews. Questions like, tell me about yourself. Interview questions like, which I've done before, why should I hire you? Interview questions about, why are you the best candidate for this job? Interview questions like, why did you leave your last job? We've looked at all this. Interview questions like, why do you want to work here? Why do you choose this particular place to work out of all places? So today we are going to press on that aspect of the interview questions by looking at one. It's not there, but it's one of those hard ones too. Yeah, that's what we want to look at today. Employers, when you are in a situation in an interview, they want to know that you have ability to problem solve. They want to know that you are able to solve problems. They want to know that you are not going to be, passing the buck or playing the blame game. So how do you answer this question that they can come in an interview? Tell me of a time when you were in a difficult situation. So another way of framing it is, tell me of a time how you handle the difficult situation. So, and like I kept saying, any question that comes to you, don't start to answer. First and foremost, reflect and ask, why are they asking me this question? Why are they asking me this question? And part of this question is tied to another question, which we're not going to do today, maybe next week, God willing, is they want to know your process, your mental process of handling difficult situation. They want to know, how do you handle difficult situation? They want to know, how do you de-escalate a difficult or tackle a difficult situation? And that's what the employer is looking for. It means in your day-to-day job, you will begin to meet difficult situation. And see, no manager or no employer wants that for every issue that came up, the first thing you thought of was bring the problem to them. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. And so because they don't want that, they want to know that you have the capacity to handle difficult situation. So some of you have met this framework before, but this is another framework for handling difficult situation. And and intentionally you would have answered, thought that when they ask you, how do you answer difficult situation, you should just go straight and tell them how you handled it. No. You need to premise whatever you are saying. Don't forget, we've mentioned that Let me try and quickly see if I can locate that. We've mentioned that when you are asked any question in an interview, you are supposed to use the STAR method to answer. In other words, you are supposed to create explain the situation, explain the task that you were doing to answer the question, explain the action you took, explain the result of the action, and if there's possibility for reflection, explain your takeaway, your reflection. What will you do differently next time? Every question asked in an interview, this is how to answer it using the STAR technique, using the STAR R technique, which is very, very important. So with this in mind, with this framework of answering the question in mind, you can then now good afternoon, sir. You can then now come to
Yeah, good afternoon, Doctor.
Yes, sir. You can then now come to answer the question, tell me when you were in a difficult situation. The STAR tech framework is already in your mind. You know you're going to talk about a situation. You're going to talk about the task you were handling. You're going to talk about the action you took and what was the result and what your reflection. So if you are asked, tell me when you were in a difficult situation, already the STAR R is in your mind. You are already reflecting about that. And the reason why I think that you must still go by talking about your qualifications, you would think, but earlier I mentioned my qualification. Yes, you did. Again, you are reinforcing. You're reinforcing your qualifications. You are reinforcing your knowledge and your skills. And you are trying to say your qualification, your knowledge or skills are the ones that helped you to be able to handle the problem, and then you finish up by demonstrating. You finish up by, so it's the QHSHD. That's a framework. QKSHD. So again, you quickly don't spend more time on the qualification, on the knowledge, on the skills. Don't spend more time. You spend more time in the second to last column, which is the handling. How did you handle the difficult situation? So if I'm going to ask this question, let me say, Tedros, can you answer the question? How would you answer this question?
Hello?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, as you said, we just have to go back to the experiences where we have faced a difficult situation and explain what the task was, and explain how you resolved it and then what you learned from it. Yeah. To be honest, interview-wise, I'm a bit rusty because it's been a while since I've
Many
gone
years
through
ago,
this.
is it? So many years ago, you've done that last.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I had a proper interview, to be honest.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm learning the steps myself.
All right, good. So wisdom, can you attempt this? Wisdom. Is wisdom still there? Well, if wisdom is not there, I'll just give a scenario and I will just attempt this question. Your qualification is important. So let's assume that you are applying for a role, either normal floor role or a managerial role or a director role. At any particular point, this is what you, and I don't know if you watched I did not watch it, but I saw a recap of the interview between Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, and
Yeah.
Keir Starmer. Now, what they were doing in that interview was answering this question. Tell me of a time where you handled a difficult situation, in which Keir Starmer is telling you how he would undo this difficult situation. And Rishi Sunak is telling you how he has handled, because Rishi has experience as a minister for budgets, as a finance minister, and now as a prime minister. So he can tell you how he's handled a situation. So he can give you that. So in the same way, like I keep saying, the same process of an interview for a job is right from the cleaner in the organization up to the CEO, up to the prime minister, up to the highest top job, whatever director in the World Bank, or even the Secretary General of the World Bank, is the same process. So how would you attempt this kind of a question? So you indicate your qualification. So let's assume that, let me create an hypothetical scenario to say, okay, here you are applying for the role of a director in a small enterprise operating in the UK, and they want to know, how did you handle the situation? So you'll be able to explain and say, well, with my qualification and experience, having a BSc or having a PhD or having an MSc, and that enabled me to be able to work in the industry. But of course, that sometimes qualifications does not prepare you for scenarios and situations you will meet on ground. Despite my knowledge of the industry, despite my knowledge of specific scenarios, the product and the services we do offer, and of course, the mission of our organization and the skills which I have the skill of problem solving, the skill of managing people, managing a team, delivering on projects. Challenges, of course, and difficult situations do arise in the course of day-to-day activities. And so I'll give an example of a very difficult situation which I handled, and that was giving a negative feedback to an employee which I had to let go. I had to, it's a very hard situation in which you want to say you are sacking an employee, you are relieving the employee of their day job. That's a very difficult situation. So how did I handle that situation? I ensured that while I called the staff, the employee into my office, I ensured to first appreciate, I ensured that I appreciated, I enunciated all the good things the employee has done for us in the organization, how they've contributed to our growth meeting target and our KPIs. However, I came to speak to them. I mentioned to them that we would need to let them go because of economic downturn, because of the scenario. I ensured that even though the employee had issues when it comes to working with us in the firm, I didn't put the weight of the decision on them so that it will not affect their emotions and affect their mental health. In fact, I ensured that I did not do this layoff on a Friday, because laying them off on a Friday will be very, very detrimental to them, because they have 2 days in which they will just be lying around and there's no work. So I made it sure that it was on a Monday that I, had this conversation. And why did I do that? It will enable them on Tuesday to, get out and still begin to look for another job. So that was how I handled it. Now, so I explained to them about the management decision. I explained to them the challenges that we have to lay off some staff because of some, not too good results we were expecting. And so it has to be them that they have to, that was selected by the management and by by HR. So that was how we handled it. But I, again, ensure that I left an open door for them to come back to the organization by explaining if things picked up again, if activities picked up again, because they have been a wonderful part of the team, they should, and they should just reach out. So I make sure that relationship still continue, despite the fact that they'll be leaving the organization. I ensure that they will have still access to me to reach out on anything and anytime when the need arises. And so, based on that hard decision of letting go an employee on a Monday, it still helped us to cut costs, because the amount that particular employee was taking, we're able to use that money, free up that money to use to do other things. So by that action, I saved costs. I was cost saving for the organization, which again pushed our balance sheet and our bank, our financials at the end of the quarter. So that is the way I handled an example. But if you want to hear me to give more examples, I can give more examples, but I would wait for you to let you know if you have if you would want that, because I know I'm cautious of time. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Cheers.
So how would you rate me?
No, that's good. That's good. You know where you mentioned about the situation bit?
Yeah.
Where you describe the situation and the task. Where does that bit comes in onto this list that you have now?
It's under handling.
Oh, okay.
So that is where you spend more time in the handling of the situation.
Okay.
You don't spend time on the qualification, on the knowledge, or the skills you have. You spend more time on the handling. And that's why if you look at under the handling, it says highlight 2 or more. But I'm only giving 1. So highlight 2 or more to show how you handled the situation. Then it now says show how, that is, explain the problem. What was the problem? And there were examples there. You are handling a difficult colleague. How do you handle a difficult colleague? Number 2 there, you are responding to an inappropriate behavior. So there's an inappropriate behavior in the workplace. How did you handle an inappropriate behavior? Again, providing negative feedback. So that was the example I gave now. I was providing a negative feedback. It's negative, isn't it? That somebody is losing their job.
Yeah, sure.
It's negative. So that's an example I've chosen, providing negative feedback that this person is losing their job. Another example could be you are concerned, speaking up about concerns. You are speaking up about issues you feel that maybe somebody has not treated you well, or the team has not. So speaking up in an environment also could lead to, is a difficult situation, isn't it? When you feel aggrieved and you feel there is a need to complain, you need to, speak up. It's a difficult situation. So that's another example. Another example could be about managing heavy workload. It's a difficult situation. So these are just examples. Then at the end of the day, that's what describe the result. What was the result? So I described the fact that the employee, which I had to let go, was very appreciative, kept in contact with me. In fact, we're even now more closer than when he was working with us. And I've been able to signpost him, even though I didn't mention that I've been able to signpost him to other jobs, and which he's doing currently now. And I also left the door open for the employee to come back and apply and work with us if economy picks up. And you can see, I finished up by demonstrating how does that lead to the benefit of the organization. I use it as a means of, it was cost saving. The amount of money we are paying that person, the amount of money we are contributing to his pension, that money is now being freed for us to use to do other things in the organization. So that's just an example of how would you answer this difficult question. So you could see, I said 2 or 3 because if you are applying for a managerial role, or supervisory role, it will be good you give more than 2, minimum of 2 examples. Because you are going to be handling situations of people in your team, isn't it? You're going to be handling situations of people that are working under you. And then you need to be able to show that you have varied experience. You've talked about your qualification, talk about your knowledge and your skill and the years of experience you have. So it is assumed that with your years of experience, you would definitely have more than one example, more than one if you say you have 10 years experience, it will be assumed that in 10 years, you must have handled more than one difficult situation in 10 years. So
yeah, sure.
This is very, very, very important that you be able to answer this. The second, I will not handle the second one today. The second one, which I would have loved to maybe we'll do that again next week, is tell me about the time when you failed. Tell me about the time when you failed, which same thing, another way of saying it is again, tell me about the time when you made a big mistake. Or it could be said, go tell me about the time when you made a bad decision. And all in that also, the employer is trying to know, do you accept responsibility? In this topic we have looked at today, a difficult situation, they want to know your thinking pattern and your process of handling issues or de-escalating issues. Do you de-escalate issues? I know I've been in a situation before. Let me give you an example of a difficult colleague. And that was the question I was asked in that particular interview about how do you handle a difficult colleague? And when they are asking that question, you need to be able to know, that the person is reflecting and thinking, how are you going to handle it? How are you going to answer this question? So they wanted to know, are you always, everything you go and report to the manager? Anything you report your line, you escalate every issue. Every issue you escalate. Now, if you escalate every issue, what then were you employed to do? That's the question the manager will be thinking. If you escalate every issue to me, then why did I employ you? I employed you to deal with difficult situation, isn't it? Part of why you were employed is to deal with the difficult situation so that it can free up time for your manager to do other things. So when they asked me that question, how did I answer it? I mentioned to them that they said, what if you're working in a team and one of your team member is not pulling their weight? In other words, they're not doing their job. How will you handle this situation? And I answered, I said, well, first and foremost, I would again schedule a meeting with my colleague over coffee or over lunch to try and understand the situation of my colleague, to try and know the problems or the challenges. So over the lunch, I'll be able to ask to say, what's going on, guy? Are there issues, family life, their health, their mental health, their physical health? What are the issues they might be dealing with? Now, if I understand what the issues they're dealing with, if it is family, if it is child minding, whatever problem that they come up with, I will try and see how I can support them. So if it is a task in which I need to come up, either I come up early, 30 minutes before my time to do part of their own schedule, but excuse me, part of their own work before I go to my own work, or I finish late, finish my own task before I now handle part of their task to try and support them. And that is the way I would answer and do that situation. You see, what the person who is asking that question is expecting, which you would have failed, is to say that, oh, I will just go and tell the line manager. I will go to our line manager and report to them. Then it means you are a reporter. Nobody in a team wants to work with somebody who always escalates. They don't want to work with anyone who, at every beck and call, escalates issues, escalate matters. They don't want that kind of a person. They say that person is a troublemaker. Nobody wants to work with a troublemaker. They want to work with somebody who is empathic. And you should be empathic because, hey, life happens. It might be your turn next time.
True.
It might be your turn next time. So if it's your turn next time, the way you handle this one is the way they will handle it. So if you escalate it and copy all the line managers, the same way they will deal with you, they will also escalate. When it's your turn, they will also escalate it and copy all the line managers. So so people want that in any place, you cannot work as an individual. You must always have a team. You will always have a team. You cannot successfully deliver any project without the contribution, without the assistance of one or two persons. And that is why you must always be thinking about teamwork, about how would I support the team? So what are the difficult situations in the team? Is any member of the team sick? Is any member of the team having issues in their family, in their marriage, in their health, whatever it is? And see how can you support them, because doing that would benefit the organization. Doing that would keep your team member, in a sane and healthy way. Doing that will show to the team member that they are valued, that there's concern for them. In any particular organization where any person feel unloved, uncared for, people leave. People leave, and they just feel, well, nobody even cares for me. So why must I, put my neck for somebody? So it's this question, and there's no interview you go to that they will not be asking about how do you solve the whatever industry you are working with. So there will always be this, there's always a difficult problem, even in the education sector. In the education sector, if you're in the education sector, how do you deal with difficult situation of students, of colleagues, of management, or of things, of workload? If you're in the medical practice, how do you deal with workload? How do you deal with difficult problems, colleagues, inappropriate behavior? How do you deal with, speaking up when you are concerned? There are difficult situations. If you are in the manufacturing sector, there's always challenges. If you are in the real estate sector, there are challenges. If you are in the customer service sector, so supply chain sector, whatever sector you find yourself, even for those people who are like in the job club in Tori, we support, which we just finished, the 12-week support which we did, where we met you. We supported some people to get a job with the HMP prison. They're not going to be prison officers. So when you go to a prison interview, one of them was telling me the other day, this was one of the questions. As a prison officer, how do you de-escalate issues? How do you handle a difficult situation with the prisoners that you are given responsibility to watch over? How do you de-escalate the problem? And surprise, very interesting. On Tuesday, I was in an away day, a training in one of the places where I am affiliated. And surprise, surprise, the person who was teaching, who was training, it's in England, was talking about how he was in a difficult situation like this in handling the prison uprising of 1987. I think he said in 1987. I don't know if you know that the problem at Peterhead here in Scotland, of how the prisoners took one of the prison officers ransom, and now they call them in as military to de-escalate the situation. And he said, how did they do it? When they came on the scene on the day as a military officer, all of them were in their military regalia. But he just felt, hey, we are all in our military regalia. We are going to go and fight and save a security warden, a prison warden that has been kidnapped by prisoners who are up on the roof. If we go the way we are dressed, they will see it and there might be problem. So the best thing to do is to remove all our ammunitions. Remove all our ammunitions. And that was what he said he suggested. Remove all our ammunitions, only go with a baton. And quickly, when he spoke to his manager, he said the manager was responsible. They agreed to say, okay, all of you guys, remove all your guns, remove all your ammunitions, remove all your, all the things that they had. And they only went to go and attack and to go and negotiate and go and save and rescue the prison warden with only a baton. Each of them just had a baton. That again has de-escalated the situation, isn't it? It has de-escalated because the person you are going to save people know that they will not go to die. A baton will not kill them. But if you're coming with a rifle, they know, oh, there's a possibility of death. And they might become more aggressive and more, more. So this kind of question in life generally and in any interview, you cannot shy away from it. You cannot shy away from it of how do you undo difficult situations, which we will always, find ourselves in one way or the other. So, and it's good that they went for that scenario. They saved the prison warder, and they were able to de-escalate, arrest all those prisoners who were rogue, and they handed them back to the prison service, and that was it. So this question is a very important interview question that everyone that is going for an interview needs to prepare to be able to answer. All right. So, Mr. Benjamin, sir, anything, I guess, in your 30 years experience, you would have had experience like this too. Are you there? Oh, we had, Mr. Rotimi is here too. Miss Joy.
I've been listening quietly, sir.
All right, sir. Even you too, Mr. Rotimi, you would have experienced this kind of a situation of handling difficult situation. I didn't know that some of you have joined earlier.
Yes, definitely. Being in my position, I've had so many. It's even on a daily basis. I'm been used to it where I was.
Yeah, the supply chain, you have a lot of issues.
A lot of challenges will come up, because everything involves you. When things get, and there's during the depot, there was a particular one that was a life-saving situation.
Go ahead, share with us.
Well, at a time, depot, when I was working with the MRS, and I was like I said, I was the assistant procurement manager. So because they found out that the operations, there used to be a little bit of connivance with the operations staff and some of the extra, either they load the truck or they, one way or the other, call a spill or something. So they now told some of the admin staff, and I was actually the one heading the team that day, that, that they should supervise and go, sleep overnight with the operation staff and oversee. And I was also a fire marshal. So that day I was in the office. I was pulling my laptop and I just took a small nap. So the fire people came and said there was fire in the gantry.
Wow.
Everybody, because we have a big facility, everybody was running out. Because with the explosion, nobody could have survived. So, and the CSO in charge of the facility then said they should close the gate. I was annoyed. People are ready for their life. He said you should close the gate. So I went to meet him and said, you must be crazy. This is a life and death station. Let the people that are handling the fire people that knows about fire, they're the ones that should, and us that are the management staff that should stay. Everybody else should go. Whoever does not feel safe should get out of the premises. This is a very, very, he first refused. I was insisted. And thank God I did that, because there was a panic, because there were a lot of trucks already on the queue.
Wow.
And people, the fire was already on the gantry. As luck will have it, even prior to that time, we had an issue with one Togolese that came, They connived with one supplier, and I brought another supplier which wanted to. We have what we call a mobile fire hydrant, which we just bought then that needed to be put to use. But because they needed to get someone, I told them to go and bring whatever they have. I took responsibility and authority that, okay, we must fight this fire. And luckily, one of the fire people stood even on the burning. He went to stand on the gantry where the fire was burning, and put the extinguisher. We have a big, it was burnt a little, but at least he was able to contain it, and that was what saved the company, because the fire was contained. It was only that truck that was burnt, and within a week or two, we are back in operation.
Wow.
In a similar company that happened, which was Folawiyo or whatever, that was in the middle of Apapa. The whole facility was burned down.
Wow.
Because of that singular act, because everybody was running and there was a chaos. If I didn't take that decision as the head of that particular day, the story would have been different.
So it means that you're deciding that everybody should run out.
People give me any medal of award. I got an handshake.
You got an well, but that's where they didn't give you an award, but at least the handshake, was it monetary or just normal ordinary handshake?
It was handshake, but well, I was commended, and
was it written in a note or letter?
Well, I was shortly after, I think I told you about that. They wanted to sack me, eventually turned out for promotion. A lot of things happened along the way, but they recognized my effort. But most people that actually did the work were the ones that was compensated.
Okay.
But I knew that what I did saved the company. The other one that happened afterwards, the other one happened at the ship. Well, there was the charging. One person, instead of them to normally when the ship is charging, it's coming at a high volume, and they needed to lock the valves. At the point of, instead of locking the valve, really the ship. They finished discharging. They didn't quickly lock the valve, so there was a backlog. It filled up, but it came back into the ship. And in the process, when they were trying to open, there was a spark, and then the ship blew up. The engine of the ship blew from the ship at the dock and landed inside the gantry.
Wow.
The whole of Apapa shook that day. Even the vibration of the explosion went as far as Orile. If you know where Orile is, it's about 12-kilometer radius. And I was the fire officer also on that day, trying to let people should work out. They said I said, this is not a question of working slowly. Everybody should, because when you're in the station, where things like that happened, you know that every day you go to work, they're always at risk. And and then you get, and because I've had a little bit of training on safety and that which they need to do, they were still doing everybody should assemble that. I said, no, this station does not go for assembly anything. Everybody should run out. As long as your legs can carry you. Because that explosion was really, really huge. And I was part of I was also put in charge of when they wanted to do the when we were buying things to, I was in charge of vetting all the vendors and all that. That also cost a lot of wahala. Men from Italians and those people they bought, we were always at loggerheads because when they do their quotation,
let's hear Sister Joy, you too, HSC. Are you there?
Hello, good day to you.
Yeah, how did you handle difficult situation as the HSC manager?
Oh, well, so difficult situations, they come in different shape. A particular one now that comes readily to mind, it's with so making decisions, right? There are risks in the workplaces. So it's about me knowing my onions, the regulations. So I know that, we've got several sister companies, right? And my employees are more of the aesthetic parts. Now, this is me looking at PPs in populating as an example, though there are some other difficult situations because it just comes with the work as you go along. But on this particular occasion, employees were like, oh, the plant in Onitsha, they wear these beautiful safety boots. But I said, this, looking at our workplace, right, Onitsha, it's was built right to standard, like in I think that plant was built in the 2017, while in Port Harcourt, it's an old brewery, right? So of course there are a whole lot of renovations that needs to be done. So, but one needs to, so what that paints is that particular plant, it's unique such that we need to, whatever PPEs we are buying, safety boots has to be that which will manage the risk in that Port Harcourt plant. But I said beyond the aesthetics, it's about what will prevent you from getting exposed to the hazard associated with this plant. Of course, employees or humans being who they are, I said, no worries. These are the technical data sheets. This is the risk. This is what we aim to achieve. And of course, understanding those persons that are also influential, because I know these people, they've got unions and some other persons too they need to listen to. So those people, because I can't start speaking to everybody at the same time. So I identified those key stakeholders who in our meeting, I could do those analysis and tell them that their welfare, their safety, having analyzed these things, have been put into consideration. So that strategy I deployed, and fortunately, they were able to buy into my analysis, and I got those. And I told them, let's put it to test, give it some days. On the plants you're referring to, they bought this at this time, and let's see how it, let's get feedback from them. Then let's see how it goes. So at the end of the day, my people, they even found that it was even more comfortable beyond the aesthetics, right? Yes, it's not beautiful, but it's rugged. It is not beautiful, but it's safe. And it was comfortable in there. So it made them to understand that beyond the physical aesthetics, there are other conditions that it takes a technical expert to understanding these conditions in order to making a better decision. So at the end of the day, everybody was happy. It became a norm, and that learning was also translated even in those plans, because it takes you to be an expert to be able to profile solutions, technical solutions. So those guys also learned, and I also became like a consultant, for the company in terms of these technical nitty-gritties. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Now you could see like I mentioned, you could see that every day at every place of work, there is always this aspect of handling difficult situations. And that's why I felt that today we should look at this. Next week, God willing, we'll be looking at a time when you failed, when you made a wrong decision, a time when because these are questions that you cannot dodge them in an interview. You cannot dodge. These are questions. The other ones we've handled, but these are difficult ones, which when you are prepared for them in any particular interview, you are able to, stand and explain and be able to, defend yourself. But like I keep saying, when we're going to look at next week, don't talk of a time when you blew up the whole when you blew up the whole company. There's always diplomacy. There's always diplomacy. Let me see what I wrote. Look at what I put in that the results under handling. The last thing there says, in answering the question, show your calm, respectful, and diplomatic approach. So in handling this kind of difficult questions, either a difficult situation or a time where you need to show calm, you need to show you are respectful. And the fact that somebody caused a problem, there still need to be respect for that person. The fact that a team member is not pulling their weight in the role, there still need for respect for the person of that individual. The fact that somebody is trying to cause an inappropriate behavior in a place of work, there's still the need for the respect, of that person. And that's where the issue of calm, diplomatic, respectful approach is important. If those are the scenarios that you want to, you are tackling with. Like I mentioned earlier, not to throw people under the bus. What does that mean? Don't be the one that will always escalate issues or always report employees or always just say no, because if you go that way, it's very unfortunate because a day will come when it's your turn. More than one person will also throw you under the bus. They will also go, they will also raise issues. They will also escalate things. So I think on that note, we've come to the end of today's session. Thank you so much. I hope it's been helpful today. Great. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It was helpful.
All right, let's just pray as we, Lord, we thank you. We are asking that this knowledge will be helpful, that you provide that each one of us here are looking for a change in career or in between jobs in transition. You will provide the kind of job they want for them, and that you will settle them and help that when they go for an interview and this question comes up, they will be able to readily answer it in a calm, diplomatic, and respectful way. In Jesus' name. Amen. All right, thank you, everyone. So see you again next week, Thursday, by the grace of God.
Cheers. Next week.
Bye.
Bye.